if you want to do this, you need to go all in, right? If you're not making a difference, why are you doing it? There's no reason to do something just to waste your time. If you don't think that you want to change the world with what you're doing, why, it's fine to do a company where you're making money, then just do that, right? Just say, I'm in it to make a buck, and that's fine. But it's not going to get people to work with you. It's not going to get partners to work with you unless you build it so big and you're that lucky. But I don't know anybody who's done that. So the unicorns did not happen by mistake. None of the unicorns came up with because a dude sat in his dorm saying, "I want to make $1 billion." Right? It didn't happen like that.
Hi, welcome to Engineering a Startup. My name is Akash Goyal, and if this is your first podcast episode, first of all, welcome. And really, the purpose of this podcast is I'm on a journey to build my own startup, a company called enginehire. And along the way, I'm learning so much by talking to other entrepreneurs, founders, and other great people in the startup community. And the idea of this podcast is just to share those conversations. Today, I'm talking to Boye Hartmann, who's the founder and CEO of YDigital Asia, which is basically like a hybrid between a business consulting and digital agency. And they've worked with a lot of really cool clients like eBay, Microsoft, and Mattel. What's awesome about Boye is he has this really cool perspective of being a Danish guy working in Southeast Asia. And he's been in the startup world for over 30 years, starting his first company in 1987. And since then, he's been a part of building over 60 companies all over the world, including in Denmark, Russia, Poland, Belgium, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. It's really amazing. And he has this unique perspective of understanding what's similar about starting a startup all over the world, and what are the things that are different, and which opportunities exist in different parts of the world. So, without further ado, please welcome Boye Hartmann.
I'm Boye Hartmann. I'm a Danish guy living in Southeast Asia. I've been part of the startup world since I started my own company in 1987. Mm-hmm. I've been part of building more than 60 companies around the world: Denmark, Russia, Poland, Belgium, and now in Southeast Asia, building companies in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and in Thailand. So that's quite exciting. I'm turning 50, so I'm not the youngest guy around in the startup community. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. What was that first startup you started?
I started a technology-based advertising company in 87, but it wasn't internet. It was more technology-driven outdoor media, stuff like that we were doing. We were introducing the first service calls, so telemarketing and these kind of things were happening at that time. Early stage, 87, but quite interesting. So we had 9 locations of outdoor media we were managing through a very old modem, where we're trying to, so it's actually essentially light bulbs, where you have, as I remember, 20 light bulbs going up and then like 80 light bulbs going to across, and then you can do different pictures and stuff like that. It was quite funny.
It must be amazing for you to see how much things have changed since
then. I think in some perspectives they're changing very fast, but in some other perspectives, in my age, the AI things were actually written in the 50s, right? So now everybody's talking about AI and blockchain and all these things, and essentially a lot of these charters has been written half a century ago, which is quite interesting.
It is interesting, but I mean, there's one thing to kind of come up with them, and then the what makes it so exciting right now is it's accessible for 20-year-old kids sitting in their dorm rooms,
true.
Right?
True. I'll give you an example which I find really exciting. I've been working a little with IBM during the years. I'm still an advisor in the UK for an IBM partner. And when we started, any IBM program would be, you roll out something with them, it's going to be $1 million, right? At least, right? That's a cheap solution. And now if you're a startup and you want to run on the IBM Marketing Cloud, and you want to engage with Watson for reporting and stuff like that, it's $39 a month. Mm-hmm. For all that computing power. It's just amazing. So
yeah. Well, I bet 20 years from now they're going to be laughing at us like they thought that was a lot of computing power.
I'm already saying to my team here in Asia, I'm saying whatever we're doing now, in 6 months from now, we'll be laughing because saying, why were we so stupid? Why did we do that at that time? Why didn't we do it differently? So it's going very fast at the moment.
Yes, every 6 months, you think it
It
changes
changes
that
quite
much?
dramatically, especially, we are in the advertising space in my consultancy here, and the channels are changing, the way you engage are changing. People are trying out stuff. So right now we have a lot of, so South Asia is different than California and Canada, because, essentially there is I guess around 40 live messenger apps available. So it means that essentially you need to figure out who you're talking to with what messenger app. So WhatsApp is for most, but Messenger for somebody else, Viber for something else, even Path. I don't know if Path, if even know Path in Canada, but Path was no, Path started in Silicon Valley, but it's essentially the only country in the world I think they're really left is in Indonesia, where it's the friends messenger. So that's where you keep your close friends and where you talk about things you want to talk about. It. We have BlackBerry Messenger still here, like 50 million people using BlackBerry Messenger.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing. So the diversity of how people use things are very unique in this region, and also how they use them and how much they use them. Right. So that's the thing. Oh.
I'm just thinking, how do you tackle that diversity? Like, how does it change your approach?
Well, first of all, we try to, as anybody is doing, we try to figure out what do we want to achieve with that channel. What, does it fit with the strategy we've done for the clients? So is it how do you get engagement with these guys? Will they actually go down the customer life cycle and buy something at the end of the day, or what is actually the key? I heard a very interesting thing the other day. Starbucks has in every location in the US uniquely around 15,000 pictures tagged a year. And the good question is, just from the point of view, what am I going to do with 15,000 mugs with a name on? What value does it bring? And when you have thousands of locations and you have 15,000 pictures a year, you're actually saying, how are we going to work with this? And what can we derive from it? Because essentially you know already the location of people, right? I was in Starbucks, I know it already. If I want to know it, you probably also know my name. So what is that picture of that coffee mug giving me? And I know that Starbucks is really fighting to find the justification for spending so much money on Facebook and Foursquare and all these places to get people to actually do this tagging of a picture, because essentially they know everything they need to know already. So they want you to tell the world that you've been on Starbucks, but it's not so engaging anymore to have a picture of a coffee mug with a name on anymore, right? So that, I think that's quite interesting. I think the next thing is, of course, when we started out here in Asia 4 years ago, there was 4.5 years ago, there was around 100 marketing automation tools around. Now we've surpassed 5,000.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a decline in SaaS services. I think people are going to find out that just putting something in the cloud is not going to be enough to make it anymore. There needs to be a real reason. And the reason doesn't only have to be a function of something. It has to be something different. You have to add more value to the pie than you did before. So just because you can, I'm not just going to listen to your podcast because you can do a podcast. No, I'm going to listen to your podcast because you're going to give me something valuable. You're going to steal my time. I want to listen to it. And a lot of these tools that are used in the marketing space, they do okay. They could do good stuff, but they don't cover everything. So this is not a one-fits-all solution. And I don't think that it will ever come. But it's just so exciting to see how fast it's going, and real-time bidding engines, all these things, automation and bots, which essentially, if you look upon the bot side, I know I'm not probably going to be not so popular when I say this, but bots, for instance, in the finance sector, has not been built to yield better for the consumers. That is a fairy tale. Bots in the financial sector has been built for the financial institutions to yield better. There was a study a couple of months ago by an American guy who actually looked at all the financial bots he could get access to, and then actually looked upon human interaction with buying shares, and he could not find one of those solutions that actually was at par with human on actually deciding what stocks and currencies and stuff to buy. And it's the same in the ad space, right? You can have a generic RTB engine will help you get a lot of placements, but are they the right ones? And are you telling the right things and these kind of things? And I think that's what we're going to see in the coming years, the maturity of these things coming, but it becomes more a tool for the agencies to become more efficient, the big companies to be more efficient, but it doesn't mean that you yield better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of that's the danger with automation, right? Is it really doing the things that you think it should be doing? I guess the promise is that eventually it can. It's just, is it at that point now?
Oh, definitely not. Just look at the fraud numbers in the US, right? What did they say? $8 billion of advertising fraud in 2017 until now. You have P&G has pulled out of online marketing in the US because they say as long as it's so huge numbers, they can't use it for anything. So for now, I think we do have problems, and I think the industry needs to clean up the act, to be honest.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think marketing automation is really interesting just because, as someone running a startup, you have a million and one things to do. So anything you can automate feels like a
True.
bonus. But if it's not actually doing anything effective, then you're wasting more time and resources than you think you're saving. So are there any kind of marketing automations you think that do work and that you do recommend to companies that work with you?
A lot. So there's an American company called HubSpot, which we are partners with, and I think if you're using HubSpot in the right way, you're gonna have a ton of easy life in front of you. But getting to that point of setting it up and running it and having all these personas creating and running campaigns on personas, it takes work. So believing that it's automation with no work is not true. But if you put in the effort, you're going to be able to scale your marketing effort significantly. So, but the truth of the matter is, Facebook is a different animal than a website, and it's a different animal than getting a text. And essentially, you need to be a master of all these things. Just give me a simple example. There's so many automation tools in the email space, and has been for a long time, right? MailUp, Mailchimp, Campaign Monitor, all these guys. They do beautiful emails, all that. But the truth of the matter is, will those emails yield for you is not so much about the tool. It's actually about more you understanding how you communicate with who you communicate with. And I think automation in the marketing space helps us communicate with smaller communities, so smaller personas, you call that, smaller pieces of the market, which would relate better to what we say. So if you do a startup blog and you send it to all the CEOs in the same way you send it to the other startups, all the CEOs might find it not interesting. But if you make a special, an email was telling that this is actually also exciting for CEOs to listen to, they might say, okay, this is for me, it's for my crowd, right? And I do believe the future of a lot of the startup world is coming from corporate innovation. I think the pendulum is swinging back from, we've had a decade or two of garage ventures, and now we're going back to the world where, customer acquisition is too expensive online, so you need to be able to do more things with existing communities. So example is Qantas Airlines in Australia has launched an insurance company. And I think today they're the second largest insurance company in Australia. And they have no prior history of doing that. But who helped them? Well, BCG built it. BCG built all the tech in Berlin and launched it in Australia on the back of a customer base of 17 million people, which is essentially the whole Australian market. And I think those kind of things you're going to see much more. I have another example of great corporate disruption. Coca-Cola in Germany. They've launched. What do you have in Canada? Do you have Food Panda or something in Canada?
For food delivery?
Yes.
We have a company, Foodora.
Okay.
There's also Uber Eats.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the two most popular ones as far as I know.
And they're probably excellent. And they charge the restaurant probably around 15-20% to pick up the food and deliver it. Now, Coca-Cola's app in Germany, they don't charge the restaurants anything. They only say, you want to be on our app, which, by the way, is the best app in the market, so the consumers love it. You pay nothing. There is no transaction fee. We only demand one thing of you. Sell Coca-Cola. So look at where Foodpanda is in Germany right now. Look at how people are saying, wow, big corps are actually disrupting the startup world by offering something that the startups can't offer. We need transactional to happen in our platform to make money to do something. And if they say, well, that piece of the pie we don't really care about because we're making money over here. So I think you're going to see a lot of that in the next decade. That's going to be the next thing. Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing. An example for me that comes to mind is when I see, these Alexa devices that Amazon is creating.
Yeah.
The Echo and the Dot, they're selling them for dirt cheap. They must be losing money on the hardware, but they want everyone to have that Alexa platform in their home.
Yeah.
So it just becomes a vehicle for distributing that. And, no startup can afford to lose that kind of money on hardware at that kind of scale.
True.
But Amazon's like, yeah, well, why not? We want to distribute the platform, so that's what matters.
And imagine, I think what is really cool about the whole Alexa and Google Home world, and others coming up, by the way, is the fact that they're actually moving us away from a visual internet to a voice-generated internet. And essentially, they will be the leaders of that pack. And imagine we're going to have much more. I think especially services will come through voice, right? Get me an Uber. Okay, we know where you are and all these things. But then Uber has to pay Amazon to be able to be on that platform, right? So they're going to change that part. Commerce is different because especially I think girls are very visual and very social when they buy, and I think we boys very often make the mistake that we are looking at the internet as one, and we always look for convenience, right? That's why socks on subscription sales. That's why what's it called? Shave Dollar Club, whatever. Dollar Club is
Dollar Shave Club.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're selling. It's funny. It's and it is convenient. Wow, getting it is fine. And I forget to cancel it because okay, no, next time I'll do it and don't get it done. That's very male. Girls don't do that. They go and look and browse for that red dress, and they want to have have a red dress for some occasion or whatever, or they think they miss a red dress in the wardrobe, and they're gonna browse for it. They might not even buy it online. They might very likely still buy it in a store somewhere because they go with the girls. They go with let's go and shop and do things. No, so where you would stand down in an electronics market and you would take your phone up and say, hey, come on, this Google Home really? $299? No. Online, $199. Yeah. Go to hell. Yeah. I'm buying this here, right? The girls don't do that. They don't they shop for bargains, but they don't compare in the same way. And I think the Echo is a male-built thing, and it's going to have great impact for us, especially in the service sector. But I think, just the fact girls don't like to be woken up by their phone, right? But my son, the last thing he says before he goes to sleep is, Siri, wake me up 7:30. That's the last thing he says, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think my wife would ever talk to her phone. I think she would feel like, why am I talking to the stupid phone? It doesn't make any sense, right? So very interesting. I find it very intriguing. I think voice is definitely a disruptor. If you look at Sabotage VC, they believe that voice is the next thing. I had a great opportunity meeting them out here in South Asia when they were here last time, and even though they have a great name, Sabotage, they do truly believe that voice is the next big thing. And that's quite funny because, again, I'm old, right? So we've done voice solutions over IVR for essentially doing the same things that a lot of these people are trying to do today. We've done that for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what makes me curious about voice. Like Siri, for example, has been on the phone quite effectively, I guess, or as effectively as it has been for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really gained traction beyond, basic search tasks or setting timers, setting alarms. So I wonder whether voice is like complementary to the smartphone, or whether it can actually replace it as the new main interface.
And that's a really, really interesting question, and of course also difficult to answer. When I saw Dragon dictate, I don't know, 10 years ago, whenever I saw it, or even I was just like, wow, that is easy, right? You just sit with your phone, the first iPhone, and you're just dictating, and it just transcribes what you're saying, right? And it works pretty well, right? I still have the app on my phone. When did I use it last time? I can't remember. Right? Google Search. It's actually easier to do Google Search with Google Assistant than it is typing, and it gives good results. Why don't I use it? It's something about how we adapt to using technology. And I'll give you an example of that, which I find quite interesting. We've been trying to sell video conferences for many, many years. I've been in the telco industry since the mid 90s, and when GSM was evolved, we had the ability to really make video calls through the phone. And in Europe and the US, whenever people tried this, it failed dramatically. But in Korea and Japan, everybody on the streets were running around with their new 3G phones in the late 90s, and they were chatting on video and all that. And we couldn't get why was it so popular there, but nobody wanted to pick it up around the globe. And I think the truth of the matter is most people in Western society don't feel comfortable with a video on, right?
Yeah.
We used to talk on the phone, right? And why we talk on the phone? You see all the movies, you have your feet up, you have a finger in your nose or whatever. You're just doing all these things that you're doing when you're talking on the phone, and people don't feel comfortable having that camera here. So not talking about voice, but there's just another cultural thing which I think is quite interesting. That we and I think there is not one world in that sense because we do things differently, right?
Yeah.
So, good.
Yeah, the camera question is really interesting. I see a lot of people even with like a little piece of tape over their laptop camera. But now, the new some of the new models for the Amazon Echo, they have the camera built in.
Awesome.
And it just seems strange to me to have that like in your bedroom or in your bathroom or something like that. Do you really want a camera there?
It's also a thing that we're building on safety and security, right? So first of all, if you don't speak, the camera should recognize you, right? So face recognition. Use Microsoft Hello. It's very easy to build a small application where your application will recognize you immediately. So it gives the computer a sense that you're the right person in the room. If you're not the right person in the room, well, it can notify you. Hey, hang on. Usually there's nobody here at that time, but now there's somebody. Oh, it's the cleaning lady. Okay, everything is fine, right? So you're going to use these things, and there's a lot of products out right now, with doorbell cameras and all these things. But you're going to see them being everywhere. Essentially, you were also asking why would you like to have a camera on a TV screen? I don't think the initial idea of having a camera on a TV screen was to do Skype on the TV. I think the original thing was advertisers don't want to know if you're looking. Right? They want to see, oh my God, he's smiling. So I think those things are quite
Yeah.
exciting.
Exciting and terrifying slightly at the same time. But it's like, how much do you want the?
And I
Yeah.
think, and I think honestly, startup community and all these startup programs, which I love. I'm a part of Founders Institute myself. I'm a part of IdeaBox here in Indonesia, Copenhagen Business School's entrepreneurship, a lot of these things, and I love them. But the truth is, a lot of the young kids that are there, when they get forced to create an idea, they Google shit, right? And they get inspiration. Yeah. And that becomes their startup foundation, not actually the fact that, you're saying, well, I want to clean up the oceans. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I see this massive problem. This is what I'm going to do. It becomes I'm creating this SaaS service for whatever, or, there's all these, and right now, of course, getting totally annoyed with words like I'm building an AI, machine learning, blah, blah, blockchain, and I think if you look at, just go and look at Google Trends, look at how Bitcoin words are going crazy, and Bitcoin is going crazy too. Essentially, I think that's also a non-healthy thing for the community, because we need to build things that we believe in, and we need to build things that are needed. We don't need to build things that people say that we believe, right? So I think that's a big thing. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't jump the blockchain or Bitcoin wagon. I'm just saying, you have to ask yourself the question: Why you? Why are you?
Yeah.
Do you really believe? How many startup people have you met who really are kick-ass AI guys who can build algorithms? How many have you really met, right? And the truth of the matter, when I meet them, they don't really know, and then they say, "Oh, I'm going to find somebody who's going to do it for me." And then I said, "You lost already. You can't be the technology leader in a space where you don't know the technology." That's how simple it is. So, okay, sorry. Anything else?
Oh, I mean, there's a million different things I want to ask you,
Okay.
but we haven't even really. I mean, this is a super interesting discussion, but like just to kind of rewind all the way, how did you end up in Asia?
Oh, interesting. It's actually not what people think. I ended up in Asia because my wife, she's not Asian, she's Danish, but she's working for the Foreign Service. So, and 22 years ago, we decided that me jumping out of the corporate world and what am I going to do? Drill for water, help people. It never actually worked out like that. So we just started traveling together, and I've been building companies ever since. So, cleaning company in Russia, ISP in Poland, consultancy, all different things been building around, and that worked pretty well for me. So that's why we are in Asia now. And I'm riding on the back of my wife's fantastic career. So
That's really amazing to be able to build not only a lot of companies, but in a variety of different places. So what kind of stays the same building companies in different countries, and what changes?
The same thing is actually people. No company is built without people. So if you get the right team together with the right spirit, with the same kind of values, you're driving things in the same way, then it becomes the same thing. You can say you're doing this. You need to build a leadership team who actually have a vision for what you want to do. But people are different all over the world, right? And you need to learn to cope with the fact that I'm Danish, which means that things are very squarish in my world, right? This is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is when we're delivering, and that. That's how we are, right? But here in Asia, for instance, very often it's not a time doesn't mean anything. Does that make sense? So the problem is that if you say to a normal Indonesian person, let's do this and will you finish it today? They will probably say yes. But the truth of the matter is
Mm-hmm.
they haven't really thought about it. Is it going to be today or tomorrow? Or when it's going to be all fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a Swedish guy who said this. In the Nordic countries, we had this thing that if we didn't gather food for during the summer, we would die during the winter. But if you're around equator, there's a mango, and there's going to be a mango again tomorrow, and there's going to be a mango again tomorrow. So you don't have the same level of need to plan, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore, when you don't have that need, you won't essentially you won't need to stick to the plan as much as we do. I don't know if that's true, but it's a funny thing to think about. That
Yeah.
it might be in our genes from a long time ago that if we didn't do it right, we will die. So therefore, we have to go out and do that, right? So, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Right?
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
Seems like the kind of thing you could like write a book about or something.
When I'm turning 90, I'll start writing books. So I haven't had time for that yet. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, right now you got to keep adding material for your book, right?
yeah, true.
So I also noticed that you're like involved with a couple of organizations that are like startup mentoring.
Yeah,
There's like SEA and Plug and Play.
yes, I am. Yeah.
So what is it like, being part of those organizations and mentoring new startups?
I think that whole journey started from me back in Europe when I started with Copenhagen Business School. They have something called Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship, where I've been a mentor for quite some years now. Microsoft Innovation Center in Brussels was a great place, and then Beta Group, which is a group of startups, I think, right, 4,000 startups in Brussels. It got introduced by Jean Derely and Ramon Soreras. They are cool guys who are running that down there, and they got me like in this space of becoming a mentor, which I was like, why would I, should I mentor something? What does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
But in the first batch of Founders Institute in Belgium, I was so lucky to be invited in, and the reward you get is incredible, right? So for me, it's not definitely not a monetizing thing. It's more a giving back thing, that you have an opportunity to sit with. I say young people, but essentially there's people of all ages. But essentially giving them back what you learned and say, hey, if I were you, I will try and look a little on this here. And I think in the recent years I'm getting more pushy. So I'm getting more like saying, hey, if you want to do this, you need to go all in, right? If you're not making a difference, why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to do something just to waste your time. If you don't think that you want to change the world with what you're doing, why, it's fine to do a company where you're making money, then just do that, right? Just say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it to make a buck, and that's fine. But it's not going to get people to work with you. It's not going to get partners to work with you unless you build it so big and you're that lucky. But I don't know anybody who's done that.
Mm-hmm.
So the unicorns did not happen by mistake. None of the
Yeah.
unicorns came up with because a dude sat in his dorm saying, "I want to make $1 billion." Right? It didn't happen like that. And I think people are mistaking that. And in the first wave, we had a lot of companies who wanted to be Skype and wanted to be Facebook and all this. And right now, there's a huge wave of everybody who wants to be Bitcoin and all these things. And I don't think startups should be Me Too. I think
Mm-hmm.
startups should be something different. Now,
Yeah.
in Asia, there's some opportunities, and definitely in Africa, also South America. Some of the things that have been successful in other countries, you can copy. And there's been great movements like Rocket Internet done it. Right? They took a lot of projects and copied it around the globe, more or less successfully. And I do think that if you have the right local team, you can copy things and move them, but it's not easy, right? So I think that's a big part of it. The mentoring part in Asia, we have a fantastic community. In Indonesia, we are running with Kejora Ventures. And Andy Sane, who's really a godfather of startups here, and we're running Founders Institute here in Indonesia. And just to give you a number, Vancouver used to be the biggest Founders Institute in the world, right? They're not anymore. Jakarta is. So I think we had like 1,200 applicants, 79 companies joining. The scene is vibrant, right? And what we have is all the mentors here is from all the unicorns of Indonesia. So we have a very strong foundation here. In Malaysia, we have a strong setup together, more or less governmental setup, where you have MTech there. We're working very closely together. They do a lot of things for the startups and startup community to try and mature it. And there's great people we were working with there. There's Jasmine, who's the CEO of MTech, very visionary girl who really tried to do a difference there. So you see that there's more community spirit to it also than just a let's build startups, right? Even though it's fierce, because it is, people are really putting their soul into it. It's not like China. It's not, it's not the same feeling you have here. It's more like, if you need my help, I'll help you out. We'll figure it out. That's pretty great. But also because there's so few of them, right? So that's another issue.
I think having that kind of supportive community is really great. I'm so entrenched in the Canadian and American kind of startup culture. I don't even really know what it's like around the world, which is what makes it so interesting to talk to you. But are there like key differences you see between like startups in Asia versus in America, or like key opportunities that exist there?
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity in Asia is really in their face, and they're doing nothing about it. Asia is a mobile first region, and I think startups are messing up the opportunity. I think they would the startup would surpass American mobility if they just started being serious here, because they use the phones much more vibrant than Americans do. But they need to be really focused on that. 97% of all websites in Indonesia are not mobile optimized. And essentially everybody is accessing the websites through the mobile. I think the mobile first movement should be much stronger out here. And I know GSMA has tried to do stuff here together with the telcos, but working startup communities for some reason doesn't work that well with telcos. It's not it's not how it works out. And doing mobile stuff, you need to understand how the mobile works, and the experience of something can be different, right? You can't have 100 functions on in your app, right? Because people won't use it. And you need to think about the fact that there's only 7 apps on my phone I'm using. This thing I'm building will then now actually replace one of them, or will it? Do you really believe that I'm going to skip my Spotify for your app? And I think a lot of the startups forget to ask that question. Am I adding enough value to you in your everyday? And I think also a lot of the services rendered on the internet today are not things I'm doing every day. If I was a startup, I would think, how can I do something that people will do 10 times a day? What can I be part of something like that? Instead of being something like, this great, I was part of something called My Good Party in Europe. We did 18 countries, I think it was, where you could plan your own party online. We never made any money, right? But it was a great service. One of the major problems is, how many times a year do you have a wedding? How many times a year do you have a 30th birthday? It's not something that happens all the time. So do you remember My Good Party? No, I don't. So what do I have to do? I have to go on Google and search. So we have to pay Google a crazy amount of money to get a lead. And then actually it ends up in making money for Google and not making money for us. And we tried so many different models to try and change that. But it's just an example of where you have a service which is excellent, fantastic, but too rare, right? So essentially the banks more or less have the same problem, because there's no reason to go to my bank app, because I'm using my credit card when I'm on the street. I'm just using and I can use a mobile pay thing, or wallet, whatever. But why would I use my bank? And I think a lot of the banks are missing the point when they're trying to build a full-fledged banking solution in a mobile, because I will never use it. Give me those two functions that I need. Do it in Facebook Messenger. I don't need to go into your crappy application. And I think that's something we need to learn.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally true, right? There's only the 7 or 8 apps that dominate your mobile home screen. They use them 95% of the time. And it's really interesting how, 5 years ago, everyone was making a new app. And that's really died down because it's just so hard to get anyone to download a new app.
It is.
But do you think the way to then compete in mobile is to have everything in the browser and have your experience optimized for the browser?
I think actually the journey starts in another place. I think the journey starts in the messenger. I think conversations is where it's happening. I think the thing, if you look at what is really transacting online today, mobile, not mobile, it's WhatsApp, it's Messenger. The daily interactions in these platforms are humongous. So I would tap into their stream and say, hey, you know what? You're anyway in Messenger, and I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? I'm selling these sneakers, and I think they'll be really cool for you. Would you like to see what I'm doing? And you say, well, not really, right? So, okay, then I'm not going to spam you again. But if you say, yeah, cool, let me see what's there. So with rich media, video, carousels, whatever, I'll show you what I have. And there we start the journey. And then you can go to an app or a mobile website or whatever you want to go to, or Amazon to buy it or whatever. I'm going to kick you over to do whatever makes most sense for me. But then you don't have to build a humongous big CRM system to manage that, because I already have you in my messenger. You're already there. So if I was a startup, I wouldn't be so hung up on building an enormous big infrastructure for that. I would much rather. And again, the BI you get from social media is next to nothing, right? There's nobody who can give you the insights they can give you. Where were you where were you when you actually got that message? Did you share it with your friends? Who are your friends? What's your interest? All these things are quite interesting.
Yeah, so it's going where the people already are rather than trying to pull them somewhere new, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's been like that all the time, right? First it was radio, right? Why was radio effective? Because everybody was sitting around the radio on Saturday listening to something. Then it became TV. Then everybody was sitting around the TV. And the picture they still try to paint you is that mom and dad and their two kids, a girl and a boy, every Saturday at 6 o'clock, they're sitting having the snacks in front of the TV, and they're watching this beautiful TV show. But it's all bollocks, right? Because it's not working like that. It's not the truth. And I think the truth is that everybody are online and they are in a messenger, and you can communicate with them if they're watching TV or a sports game or having dinner or whatever they're doing. You can still talk to them because that's where they are. So essentially, I believe that the messengers have become the micro TV of our time. And I think that it's where the journey starts for us communicating. So I think communication, what do you call it? Conversational advertising is the next big thing. And I think not a lot of people have it right.
That's a cool term, conversational advertising.
Trademark it. It's all
good. That's my next startup. Let me try to find the domain name.
You're already buying it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Conversationaladvertising.com is probably gone. All the .coms are gone. I don't know. I'll go .co or .io.
That's the new thing, right?
So when a company comes to you from a consulting perspective to work on advertising, which directions do you point them? What's the most effective way with the existing infrastructure to advertise?
In YDigital, we are very clear on the fact that the old advertising dogma is dead, right? There is no let's spam people and see how they react with TV or outdoor media or whatever. So we have to go one step back. And I think a very interesting part is what Accenture Digital has been doing the last couple of years, and Deloitte and these guys, because they're actually moving the needle more towards a business proposition. So they are looking more, what is your strategy? Why do you need to go digital? And these things, and we're doing the same in a sense, just a little more leaner and at a different price point also. So essentially, what we do is, I'm just thinking who I could take an example. I'll take an example of a Japanese restaurant chain who essentially had two problems. They had this first problem that people believed that the meat they served in the restaurant was crappy, right? Okay. Second problem they had is that they didn't see an increase in new people coming to the restaurant if they went traditional. So when they went to magazines and got reviews, they see no impact. So I think they had like 40 restaurants, 35, 40 restaurants in Jakarta. So we went in and said to them, first of all, we need to change the perception. If Indonesian people believe that you have crappy meat, well, let's tell them that you don't. Because is that true? And they say, no, 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 no. We have some of the best quality meat in the world. We're Japanese, right? So we went out and we did a YouTube channel, Instagram, and Facebook channel for them. And there we started talking about, how yummy this fantastic meat was. And at the same time, we started, figuring out how we can get people to go from that channel into the restaurant and try this out. So there's many ways you can do that with competitions, give them vouchers, try and buy, go to, buy one, whatever. But the cool thing is that within 2 months, we have increased the sales in the store with 20%. And we know it's the online thing working, not only from the measurement of vouchers and stuff, but actually from the fact it was the only activity happening. So people just don't wake up and say, oh, this Japanese restaurant, I'm going to go there. No, they go there because, first of all, the reputation was changed. People saying, oh, if they do have the good meat, why I should go and try it. And secondly, they got all these ways to actually engage and go to the store and rewards when you went and checked in, these kind of things. And I think that's another thing that's very interesting. And we saw YouTube as a fantastic media for that, because people are spending 15, 20 minutes on YouTube every day here in Asia, right, on the mobile. And, and what is more interesting to look at than food? We are foodies, right? Oh my God. So that was quite a good example of how you see that we go in and look at the strategy and say, hey, come on, we found that you have these two issues that you have to fix. And let us help you fix it. And then we make a strategy. And of course, the difference is when we make a strategy, maybe the overarching strategy will be fixed, right? We need to increase sales by this, or we need to change the perception like this. But the everyday things are very fluid, because we need to be able to change things. Do they work? Don't they work? And we are a numbers-driven company, right? Everything we do is based on numbers. So if you are sitting and you're saying, well, we're doing this Facebook thing that we think will work, and we can get a lot of views by paying Facebook AdWords, but do people engage with it? Is there any engagement? Do people even care? And we look at that every day, and it's people, unfortunately, it's not bots, it's people looking at it every day and assessing, saying, what did we do wrong or right? Why was this working when we did it last week with different color? It worked, but this week it didn't work. We're trying to figure out, and we don't have all the answers, but what we can do very fast is we can say, okay, you know what? Let's try and do it as we did last week and see what happens. And then we see that it works. Then we say, okay, then there's something in that ad copy that we did there that didn't work. It didn't appeal to them or whatever it might be. And again, figuring out the question, who's going to that restaurant? And the problem around the world is everybody will say, well, my restaurant is for everybody. I cater for men, women, children. We have children menu. We have all these things, all you can eat. They have all these things. But the truth of the matter is that's not how it looks like. Why don't restaurants know who they're serving? It's because they don't know who's in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. They don't know you're sitting there, and they don't know what you feel, and they don't know what you like. But you have an opportunity with social media to engage with them and say, hey, you know what? You were just there. Tell me, how do you feel about it? Right? Mm-hmm. So these kind of things are quite interesting. E-commerce is so exciting, because the truth of the matter is, in most of the world, e-commerce is less than 5% of the whole spend. And still, it's of course a lot of money, but still, it's getting a lot of hype. I think in Indonesia we just surpassed 1.5% of retail, which is now on e-commerce, and we have some of the best funded e-commerces here already. Alibaba is here. They just bought two, so they bought Lazada, which was Rocket Internet, and they bought also part of Tokopedia, local heroes, and essentially they're now pushing payments, logistic, all these things into the market, and they're here very, 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 very early. If you go to Canada, some of the sectors, I guess, food delivery now is 7-8%, 9% maybe even. Toys is above 10%. Electronic gadgets is probably 15-20%. So some of the channels becomes really effective channels, and when they do that, you need to stop and think and say, hang on. Are we actually performing as we do offline, online? Are we as big online as we are offline? If we're not, we're losing out. Okay, what are we going to do to change that, right? And instead of saying, well, I want 1 million people on Facebook liking me, and I'm going to give them an iPhone to do that, because I think people who do that are very, 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 very unintelligent people who gets people to like iPhone better and not their own brand, right? So you need to make a reason, and that takes effort to figure out why should people like me better than an iPhone? Why should they come
Mm-hmm.
there? And you should have the respect saying, well, now you're following me on Facebook, and every day when I'm on Facebook, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you and say, hey, thank you for being here. This I think you'll find interesting. And if people don't find it interesting, they're going to drop out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's the point. So we do a lot of that. B2B e-commerce is quite exciting because it's about efficiencies, but it's also a fact of where is the B2B marketplaces really working at the moment? Is a good
Mm-hmm.
question. So we work with pharma a lot out here in Asia, and it's quite exciting. We're working with two of the biggest farmers in the world on how to make a strategy for functioning on e-commerce. I'm very proud, but I'm not allowed to say who, but we're working with one of the largest sports brands of the world, redefining the strategy for them in Southeast Asia and helping them getting traction in Asia. Quite exciting. We work with one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world. We handle multiple brands of them in multiple countries. Just the difference between Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, India is crazy and so exciting to learn from every day. So a lot of these clients are just, for me, exciting to be able to play with them. And essentially when you are in the startup world at the same time, you learn a lot and say, hey, wow, oh my God, these guys are doing like this. I can promise you one thing. The startup world will say, the big corps, they're so stupid. They're not. The big corps are not stupid. They don't hire stupid people. I've never heard that Harvard grads are stupid, right? They're not. McKinsey people are not stupid. So it's just the fact that they live in a different organism, and it takes longer time to turn the ship around. They can't do changes immediately. Also because corporate world runs on a 6-month cycle, right? So
Sure.
if you don't hit the numbers this 6 month, then you're out. So therefore you will sacrifice maybe the long-term perspective by doing something short-term, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's part of what makes startups exciting is that they can stop and change on a dime, in the way big corporations can't. But yeah, I totally agree. There's no reason to think that they're stupid.
No.
Um, and based on your restaurant example, I guess it's your fault. Everyone's on their phone, right? They have to take pictures of their food and post it on Instagram.
we reward them to use the phone while they eat. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Great. I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. But one question I really like to ask, everyone I talk to is, if you were talking to someone who is thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, based on everything you've experienced, what one piece of advice would you want to give them?
I would tell them that you really need to think about one thing. Do you want to spend 80 hours a week quitting that 40 hours a week job? If you want to do that, then you're in the right place, right? But you need to have and now not because our company is called YDigital, but you need to have a why. You need to have a why you're doing it. Not so much what you're doing and how you're doing it, doesn't really matter. You need to figure out, I want the freedom to take control of my own life. I'm going to sacrifice fixed income. I'm going to sacrifice these things to do that. I'm going to sacrifice the people who believe they can do a startup on a 20-hour work week. Sorry, not work day. That would be cool. Huh? No, a 20-hour work week. I haven't met a lot of them. I haven't met a lot of them. The most of the people I meet in the startup community are thinking about what they do day and night, right? And they're working their ass off. And when they're not working their ass off, they're out fundraising to survive the next fiscal year. And when they're not fundraising, they're out telling the great story to share experiences. These things I think are a big thing. So yes, if you're willing to sacrifice your 40-hour work week for an 80-hour non-paid work week, go into the startup world. It's exciting here. It's thrilling. You feel like you're empowered in so many ways, but you don't stop being a slave because you're always going to be a slave, right? You're going to be a slave. You need to hit the numbers to please an investor, or you need to bring enough income so you can keep that investor out of your way, so you actually make enough money to live and sustain yourself. So these are the things I would say. But if you don't know why you're doing it, I would stay in the cozy company condo and enjoy life.
I think you just scared off half our listeners, so
Sorry.
no, that's all right. No, I totally agree. That's the reality, especially in the beginning. You're working twice as hard and making no money. So yeah.
If you have a great skill, right? Let's go back to the skill ones. And let's say you are a graphic designer and you're awesome, right? Don't start by doing a startup because you don't know where you're going to go. Why don't you become a nomad? I think the digital nomads are having a cool life, right? They're making, $100 a day on the beach in Bali, enjoying life, work in the evening, go out. That's a very cool lifestyle. If you're single and you're good, you have a really good skill, you can work remotely wherever you are. I would, if you want that cozy life, that's probably something I would pursue. If you don't have the skill, I would probably not do it because a digital nomad with no skills is very difficult to survive. But if you're really good at something, there's so many platforms you can tie into, and I think that would be pretty cool. So it doesn't have to be a startup. Do you see? What is again the why you're doing it?
Yeah.
I have employees here in Indonesia who actually wants to have less work, but they're okay making having a little more insecure income, but they can make $20 an hour working on Upwork. Why be in the corporate world and get grilled every day from 6 to 6? There's no reason for it. But some of them, they have great inspiration to say, I want to do this. I want to change the service of healthcare or whatever. And you get all like, yeah, I want to follow that guy. And those are the startup people we need to play with.
Yeah. So you're right. It all comes back to why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't know why, you need to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. So
why are you doing it?
Well, because I'm doing it very simply, not to make money. Money is a positive outcome of something like tax is a positive outcome of making money. Money is a positive outcome of making a difference. I go to work every day believing that I'm doing a difference for my employees, to make them succeed, to make them learn, to make them enjoy. And I think I do the same for my clients. And I hope I'm doing the same for everybody around the table that I'm together with. Succeed, enjoy, and learn. And I think that's the basic. Making money is just something that comes out of it at the end of the day, if we do the right thing. And if we don't do the right thing, it won't come right. That's how I like it. Yeah.
It's a side effect, right? Positive side effect, hopefully, but
yeah. I think people who are in it for the money, there was an article some month ago about billionaires in Silicon Valley, and was it 96% of them were miserable, right? So hunt down to become a billionaire to become miserable. Why? What's the purpose, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to ask, or?
No. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, now it just sounded like I said you shouldn't start your company. I'm a great believer in that entrepreneurship is the savior of the planet. I believe that entrepreneurs are the ones who can make a difference, and because they can maneuver fast and do things fast, and we need to do a lot of change, right? Just the fact of waste in the ocean, global warming, all these kind of things, but also the fact you touched on before, privacy. I think we need to get startups to rebuild what we're doing with a different approach. So if there's anybody out there who says, wow, yes, he's right, go out and build something where we can keep privacy for people, or let people decide at least, because the truth of the matter is most people don't really care about privacy or are not informed about privacy. But essentially we should make it possible for people to take that decision. We should make it possible for people to take the decision to support companies that are helping cleaning the planet. We should make it possible. So that whole transparency is something I would love a lot of startups to come and say, wow, I think I can make a buck there. I think there's a business opportunity there. Let's go into this.
Awesome. I think that's a great place to sign off. So thanks a lot for doing this, Boye. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
That's it for the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And a big thanks to Boye for taking the time to be on it. One of the things he said that I thought was really, really interesting was this idea that big corporations can be disruptive. In fact, big corporations can disrupt startups because they have so much money, so many resources, so much reach that they can do things and offer things in a way that startups can't afford to. And it's kind of a shift in the typical way of thinking. We're used to hearing about startups that are disrupting big industries and big corporations, but this idea that there's going to be a shift backwards towards big companies disrupting startups is really interesting, and I think it's something to think about and worth holding on to. Anyways, that's the show. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to leave feedback, if you want to be on the show, please visit enginehiringstartup.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. We're at enginehire. And yeah, if you want to help support the show, please share this episode with a friend, share one of your favorite episodes with a friend. That's really a great way to just get more people listening to the show. Anyways, thanks again for listening, and as always, keep thinking. What will you create?